The greatest lyricist alive just got called a fraud by a Hall of Fame legend, and if you thought Kendrick versus Drake was the war of the decade, buckle up. Because what Lupe Fiasco just walked into on a random live stream is about to detonate the entire hip-hop landscape and drag Kendrick Lamar out of the shadows for the bloodiest lyrical execution rap has ever witnessed. This is not a rumor. This is not a subtweet. This is a documented, on-camera, ratio-worthy declaration that a top 5 lyricist of all time just signed his own name onto a hit list that Kendrick Lamar will not, cannot, and absolutely refuses to walk away from. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the next Kendrick Lamar verse is about to end a career that took 20 years to build. So do me one small favor before we get into the carnage. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and while you are at it, hop over to my brand new basketball channel, Fantastic Hoops, because we are marching straight towards 700 subscribers and every single one of you clicking that follow makes it happen faster. The link is right in the description and pinned in the comments. Show up, show out, and let us make history together on both sides of the aisle. Now, with that out of the way, let us get into the meat of what is happening, because when we talk about Kendrick Lamar right now, we have to be clear about where he actually is. Kendrick Lamar is inside. Kendrick Lamar has not spoken. Kendrick Lamar has not tweeted. Kendrick Lamar has not posted. The last public sighting of the man was him quietly watching a random NBA broadcast on the couch like the rest of us. That is it. So whatever is bubbling in the streets right now, whatever fire is being lit, whatever fuse is being burned down to the powder keg, none of it is coming from Kendrick's mouth directly. It is coming from someone else, and that someone else is a rapper we all thought we understood. That someone else is Lupe Fiasco. And what Lupe Fiasco just did on camera is going to force Kendrick Lamar to step outside whether Kendrick wants to or not. Because here is the thing about Lupe. Lupe is a genius. Let me put that on the record right now so no one can twist my words later. Lupe Fiasco is a bona fide, walking, breathing, top-tier lyricist. Lupe has albums that changed lives. Lupe has bars that live in the museum of hip-hop forever. Lupe is a first-ballot conversation piece when you talk about the craft of writing. But there has always been one glitch in the matrix. There has always been one crack in the wall of Lupe Fiasco's otherwise flawless Hall of Fame resume. And that crack has a name. That crack is Kendrick Lamar. For years now, Lupe has carried a specific, targeted, generational resentment toward Kendrick Lamar that just does not add up on paper. And that resentment finally boiled over in one of the wildest live stream exchanges I have watched all year. Here is how it went down. Lupe Fiasco hopped into a live stream with a fellow YouTuber, a personality that a lot of you might already know, a guy called Koala T. And shout out to Koala T, seriously, because whether you agree with him or not, he has been putting out some of the most entertaining and, frankly, some of the funniest hip-hop content on this platform for a minute now. Koala T has also engaged with my videos in the past, so I have a soft spot for the guy, but I have to say this with a straight face. In this particular exchange, Koala was baiting Lupe into oblivion. Koala was cranking the temperature up so high that Lupe practically lit himself on fire in real time. And Lupe, being the intellectual heavyweight he thinks he is, walked directly into the trap and cannonballed into it. Because what happened next was one of the most jaw-dropping statements I have heard a legend of Lupe's caliber make about Kendrick Lamar. Lupe Fiasco, on stream, on record, in front of thousands of witnesses, declared that there are 100 rappers on this planet better than Kendrick Lamar. 100. Not 2. Not 5. Not 10. 100 rappers, according to Lupe, are better than the man who just made the biggest cultural rap record since the millennium turned. Let that number wash over you for a second. Let it settle. Because that is not a critique. That is not a hot take. That is a full-scale artillery strike aimed directly at the top of the mountain, and it came from someone standing on the mountain right next to him. Now, before we go any further, let me be crystal clear so no one can accuse me of being biased. I am not saying this to defend Kendrick Lamar because I am scared of Lupe Fiasco. I am not saying this because I am a Kendrick fan who cannot see straight. I am saying this because I am trying to be fair, honest, and grounded in the actual reality of what these two men have accomplished on wax. There are not 100 rappers on the planet better than Lupe Fiasco. Full stop. Lupe is a top-tier legend. And if Lupe is genuinely better than 99 active rappers, then Kendrick Lamar is the exception. Kendrick Lamar is the ceiling. Kendrick Lamar is the one man in the entire craft who is objectively operating on a plane above Lupe, and it is not even close. But let us walk through exactly what Lupe said, because the actual quotes make this so much worse. Lupe started off by acknowledging, and I have to give him credit for this, because it is at least intellectually honest, that Kendrick is a better artist than him. Lupe admitted on camera that Kendrick makes better albums. Lupe admitted that Kendrick has a better team. Lupe admitted that Kendrick has better beat selection. Lupe admitted that Kendrick has better production. Lupe admitted that Kendrick has, quote, all of these better things. Which, by the way, is a really telling list. Because when you strip out the team, the beats, the producers, and the resources, what you are essentially saying is that Kendrick has access to bigger machines than Lupe does. That is not a lyrical critique. That is a resource jealousy critique disguised as one. But then Lupe pivoted. Lupe drew the line in the sand and said, when it comes down to pure lyricism, bar for bar, pen for pen, ink for ink, the way words hit the page and detonate on the beat, Lupe Fiasco believes he is the better MC. And more than that, Lupe believes there are hundreds of unsigned rappers, battle rappers, obscure names, and underground grinders that are also better lyricists than Kendrick Lamar. Lupe even started naming them. He started rattling off names like Rosenberg Raw, Blue Magic, and a handful of others that most of the mainstream audience has never heard whisper of. And listen, all respect to those artists. Every one of them deserves recognition for their craft. But to put them above Kendrick Lamar in the conversation of pure lyricism? That is not a hot take. That is arson. Because here is the truth that Lupe will not admit out loud. This is not friendly competition. This is not a control verse moment where somebody makes a bold claim and rappers get to respond in kind. Control was communal chaos. Control was Kendrick saying every rapper in the game should sharpen their pen. This is different. This is Lupe Fiasco directly attaching Kendrick Lamar's name to a claim designed to shrink him, to delegitimize him, to strip him of the crown he already earned in the streets. This is Lupe Fiasco trying to argue that the single most decorated MC of his generation is essentially a mid-tier rapper who happens to have better producers. And that, my friends, that is the moment the fuse gets lit. Let me pause here for a beat, because I want you to feel the weight of what is happening. Lupe Fiasco is not some washed-up nobody trying to get a headline. Lupe Fiasco is not some jealous, forgotten artist rage tweeting from a hotel room in Cleveland. Lupe Fiasco is one of the most respected pens in the entire history of the genre. When Lupe Fiasco speaks about lyricism, the community listens because Lupe has earned that microphone through 2 decades of genuinely brilliant work. That is precisely why this is so dangerous. Because when a legend of Lupe's magnitude points at Kendrick Lamar and says, "This man is overrated," that carries weight. That travels. That embeds itself into the rap conversation like a splinter under the skin. And it does not come out until somebody rips it out with force. And that somebody, ladies and gentlemen, is Kendrick Lamar. Because if you have watched Kendrick's entire career arc, if you have studied the way this man moves, if you have paid attention to what actually motivates the greatest lyricist of his generation, then you already know exactly what is about to happen next. Kendrick Lamar lives for this. Kendrick Lamar built his entire ethos on being doubted. Kendrick Lamar builds statues out of the bones of every rapper who ever underestimated him. And Kendrick Lamar knows something that the rest of the game has not fully processed yet. Sparring with Lupe Fiasco, in the arena of pure lyricism, in the sacred temple of bar-for-bar warfare, offers Kendrick Lamar something that Drake could never give him. It offers Kendrick a chance to prove that in the one category Lupe Fiasco tried to strip from him, Kendrick Lamar is untouchable. That is the prize on the table. And Kendrick knows the prize is there. Kendrick is very aware of the glory that comes from dismantling a lyrical icon of Lupe Fiasco's stature. Kendrick is very aware that hip-hop purists, backpack heads, and lyricism obsessives have been waiting for this exact matchup for a decade. Because Drake was a commercial war. Drake was a battle for radio, streaming, cultural capital, and generational supremacy. This would be different. This would be a scholar's war. This would be a bar-for-bar clash between two of the sharpest pens rap has ever manufactured. This would be a spectacle no rap fan on earth would miss. And Kendrick knows it. Now, at this point in the story, I have to circle back to Koala T for a second, because I do not want anyone to walk away from this video thinking I am co-signing every take that came out of that live stream. Because the truth is, Koala was rage-baiting Lupe hard. Koala was making some genuinely wild statements about Lupe's own catalog, statements I do not fully co-sign either. Koala was throwing verbal chum in the water, and Lupe was chomping down on every single piece of it. So let me put this on the record. Lupe Fiasco is a top 10 lyricist of all time. Actually, let me be even more precise. Lupe Fiasco, at his peak, is a top 5 conceptualist in the entire genre. Only Kendrick Lamar is definitively above him in the conceptual craftsmanship department, and that is a compliment I do not hand out lightly. Lupe's discography, at its highest peaks, is a hall of fame body of work. Lupe has moments in his catalog that only 2 or 3 living rappers can even approach. And even accounting for the projects that missed, and yes, Lupe has missed on some albums, when you tally up everything Lupe Fiasco has done in his career, you are looking at a rapper who deserves to be in the top 25 ever, and honestly, I am probably lowballing him there. That is the level of respect I have for Lupe as a craftsman. That is precisely why this current stretch of behavior from Lupe stings so much. Because we are not watching a mediocre rapper hate on Kendrick Lamar for clout. We are watching a genuine legend voluntarily strap himself to a rocket and aim it at his own reputation. Because let me tell you what is really going on here. When you zoom out on Lupe Fiasco's pattern of behavior over the last few years, something obvious jumps off the page. Lupe Fiasco has been suspiciously, aggressively, and openly pro-Drake for a long time now. That is not a coincidence. Lupe has publicly said, on multiple occasions, that Drake raps better than Kendrick Lamar. Lupe has publicly said that Drake does other things better than Kendrick Lamar. Lupe has essentially positioned himself as a Drake-adjacent voice in the very same fight where Kendrick Lamar planted the flag at the top of the mountain. So we have to ask the question no one else on this platform will ask. Is Lupe Fiasco really critiquing Kendrick from a place of pure lyrical analysis? Or is Lupe Fiasco carrying a grudge, wearing a jersey, and speaking for a team he refuses to admit he plays for? Because from where I am sitting, that is exactly what this looks like. And that is the real story here. Because Lupe tried to argue, on stream, that his opinion carries more weight than Koala T's opinion, more weight than my opinion, more weight than any critic or commentator's opinion, because Lupe actually competes in the sport of hip-hop. Lupe made this whole speech about how, as a working artist, his perspective on rap is more credible than someone who just observes it from the outside. And I want to gently, respectfully, and firmly say that this argument is completely broken. Because when you compete in a sport, you cannot be the fairest critic of it. When you compete in a sport, you have relationships. You have grudges. You have people you personally cannot stand and people you privately owe favors to. When you compete in a sport, your evaluation stops being about skill and starts being about politics, ego, and personal history. And this is exactly what is happening with Lupe Fiasco and Kendrick Lamar. Lupe is not evaluating Kendrick's skill. Lupe is evaluating Kendrick's threat. And there is a massive difference. This is the same problem you see everywhere in sports media. When Kevin Garnett tries to rank NBA players, his analysis is warped by every trash-talking encounter he ever had. When former NFL players evaluate current NFL quarterbacks, half their analysis is filtered through resentment for the modern game. And when a rapper like Lupe Fiasco evaluates Kendrick Lamar, half the analysis is filtered through the fact that Kendrick Lamar became something Lupe wanted to be and never quite grasped. That is not a diss. That is diagnosis. We even see this exact same problem with a personality like DJ Academics, because how are you supposed to be a credible voice in a genre when you are personally intertwined, financially entangled, and socially embedded with the very artists you claim to cover? You are a walking conflict of interest. And in rap, just like in sports, that kind of conflict is not a small footnote. It is a fundamental disqualification from being taken seriously as an unbiased voice. Lupe is running into that exact wall right now, and instead of stepping back from it, Lupe is bulldozing through it and pretending he cannot see the bricks. Now let me bring this all the way home, because this is where the story actually gets terrifying for Lupe Fiasco. Because everything we just walked through leads to one inevitable conclusion, and every single one of you watching this video already knows what that conclusion is. Kendrick Lamar has to respond. Kendrick Lamar cannot let this slide. Kendrick Lamar has to give Lupe a jab, a line, a verse, a diss, something, anything. Because Kendrick Lamar's entire code of conduct as an artist forbids him from letting a rapper of Lupe's magnitude publicly try to strip him of his crown without consequence. This is not a Rick Ross situation. This is not a random battle rapper on Twitter. This is Lupe Fiasco. This is a Hall of Famer. And when a Hall of Famer takes a swing at you, the streets require you to swing back. And I do not think Kendrick is going to unload an entire diss album for this, because that would be overkill and Kendrick is smarter than that. What I think we get is a jab on a feature. What I think we get is a targeted couplet inside a bigger song. What I think we get is a scalpel, not a chainsaw. Because Kendrick Lamar does not need a whole record to dismantle Lupe. Kendrick Lamar only needs 4 bars, delivered with surgical precision, at the right moment, on the right beat, in front of the right audience, and Lupe's decade-long grudge campaign gets buried under one afternoon of internet reaction videos. That is the terrifying reality Lupe Fiasco just signed up for. Because think about the parallel here. Think about how Drake and Kendrick spent years, and I mean years, doing exactly the same dance. Drake and Kendrick had subliminals, features, jabs, and slow-burning tension for the better part of a decade before it finally erupted into the biggest rap beef in modern history. We are watching the earliest, quietest tremors of that same fault line begin to shift underneath Lupe Fiasco right now. This is the pre-earthquake. This is the moment before the moment. And when the moment finally arrives, it is going to redefine what rap discourse looks like for the next 5 years. Because here is the truth Lupe Fiasco has not accepted yet. Kendrick Lamar is going to speak. Kendrick Lamar is going to answer. Kendrick Lamar cannot afford to eat this in silence. And when Kendrick answers, Lupe Fiasco is going to be looking at a career-defining moment, whether he wants one or not. Because if Kendrick throws even a passing line at Lupe, the entire internet will spend the next 6 months dissecting it, quoting it, and using it as the reference point for every future conversation about Lupe Fiasco's legacy. And if Lupe fails to respond in kind, if Lupe fumbles the moment, if Lupe overexplains himself or gets tangled up in his own vocabulary, then this whole situation becomes the footnote that shrinks his Hall of Fame plaque forever. That is the risk Lupe voluntarily took. That is the trap he walked into. And that is why this current moment is so wild, because Lupe Fiasco, one of the sharpest minds hip-hop has ever produced, should have seen this coming from a mile away. But something about Kendrick Lamar specifically short-circuits Lupe's normally excellent judgment. Something about Kendrick specifically makes Lupe abandon the smart move and choose the reckless one. And that something, whatever it is, might just be the psychological blind spot that costs Lupe the cleanest legacy exit of any lyricist in the last 20 years. And now let me speak to you, the audience, for a second, because this is the part where you get to speak up. What do you think happens next? Do you believe Kendrick Lamar is going to answer Lupe Fiasco with a full diss track, or do you think Kendrick is going to bury the response inside a bigger song where the mainstream barely catches it? Do you think Kendrick even needs to respond, or do you believe Lupe has already lost this exchange in the court of public opinion? Do you think a Kendrick versus Lupe lyrical war would actually be better than Kendrick versus Drake, given that this one would be entirely about bars, pens, and craftsmanship rather than pop appeal? And most importantly, Do you think this becomes the biggest hip-hop story of the year, or does Kendrick simply refuse to play the game and let Lupe hang himself in silence? Drop every single one of those answers in the comments right now, because I am going to be reading them all and pulling the best takes for a follow-up video. And while you are down there, do me one more solid. If you are not already subscribed to Fantastic Hoops, my basketball channel, go do it right now. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. We are chasing 700 subscribers together, and every single click gets us there faster. It genuinely means the world. And one final thought, because this is where I want to leave you. There is a huge difference between a rapper who is jealous of Kendrick Lamar and a rapper who genuinely has legitimate critiques of his craft. Most of the noise around Kendrick right now comes from washed-up artists whose careers have been in decline for a decade. That noise is easy to ignore. Lupe Fiasco is not that noise. Lupe Fiasco is a genuinely great rapper who is currently doing a genuinely bad thing, which is refusing to give Kendrick Lamar the flowers he has already earned. Lupe has this one lonely, ugly blind spot right in the middle of an otherwise brilliant career, and that blind spot is about to get exposed in front of the entire world the moment Kendrick decides to walk back outside. And by the way, I know Kendrick is smiling right now. I know Kendrick has already read the transcript of that live stream. I know Kendrick has already saved the clip. I know Kendrick has already scribbled a couple of pages in the notebook. Because Kendrick Lamar loves this. Kendrick Lamar loves being counted out. Kendrick Lamar loves being told he is only the 51st best rapper on the planet. Because every single time somebody underestimates Kendrick Lamar in public, Kendrick Lamar responds by dropping something that erases their argument, their memory, and sometimes their entire career in a single verse. Lupe Fiasco just volunteered to be the next name on that list, and history says the next name on that list never fully recovers. So enjoy this quiet moment before the storm, because I promise you, the storm is coming. And when it lands, this Lupe Fiasco livestream is going to be studied for years as the exact turning point where a legend chose to walk into a fight he did not have to walk into and paid the price for it in bars. In the meantime, if you want to see my thoughts on the latest lame Drake stan tantrum that is going viral on the timeline right now, and yes, there is another one, tap the suggested video on your end screen. And if you want to see what I've got cooking on Fantastic Hoops, including my breakdown of why Nikola Jokic is quietly plotting his escape from the Denver Nuggets and none of us are ready for what happens next, go check that one out too. Trust me, you will not want to miss either of them. If you want the rap talk, hang out with me here. If you want the hoop talk, come hang out with me over there. Either way, thank you for showing up today. I appreciate every single one of you. And I will catch you in the next one.